Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session of Business Bitesize. I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined this morning by Janine Guthrie. And Janine is a court of protection specialist dealing with wills, trusts, powers of attorney, deputyships, and a knotty old subject of care fees. And Janine and I have talked a few times at different times over the years. And one of the things that's always interested me, particularly with the rise in dementia, and some of the mental capacity issues is the requirements for business owners like ourselves to assess and understand whether when we're asking people to sign contracts or tax returns or sets of accounts, what our responsibilities are in terms of making sure they understand what it is they're signing. And I know Janine's got some opinions on this, and interested to know what you think, Janine.
Morning, everybody. So in relation to signing documents where somebody is mentally incapable, or sometimes when somebody is mentally capable but has documentation in place, you do need to take extra care. This is mainly because the documents that as professionals we ask people to sign are usually very important. We'll mention tax returns. And if we look at that one in particular, HMRC guidance has always been that it's the responsibility of the person whose tax return it is to sign it. They also state that unless someone is physically or mentally incapable, that person should sign it themselves. So if we look at a position where someone is mentally capable but has an attorney, then technically under an LPA, you could ask your attorney to sign your tax return, but HMRC aren't very happy about that. So they do only really accept tax returns signed by attorneys if someone is mentally incapable. Other documents, such as conveyancing for us, for example, then it would be our responsibility to make sure that the instructions we are receiving, if they are coming from an attorney, then the attorney has the authority to give those instructions. So you do have to be very careful to make sure that the instructions you are receiving are very clear and are from the correct person.
And what if we kind of broaden that out a bit into sort of more day-to-day transactions, if you like? What if somebody were, for example, to sign a contract, have some home improvements done and paid a £5,000 deposit, or even a deposit on a car or something, and then it transpired that they didn't really have the capacity to sign the contract? What would be the consequences for us as business owners in that situation?
Well, if someone doesn't have mental capacity to sign a contract, then there is no contract, effectively. We have this if we are, going to see a client who is mentally incapable, they can't give us instructions, so therefore there is no instruction. So it is very important that you do ascertain that you are taking instructions from the correct person.
So if I'm in a situation where I'm sat with somebody, I'm a bit concerned about whether they're understanding, I have some concerns about that. What sort of the options for me? What can I do? Can I just sort of forget the contract and not deal with them, or what else might I do?
Well, this mental capacity is a very grey area and people are affected in very different ways. So what you can do is you can try different ways to help them understand. As professionals, we know what we're talking about and we tend to just talk about it. And when we're talking with other professionals, they understand what we're saying. On the whole, people that don't tend to deal with the types of things we deal with on a daily basis sometimes need to be approached in a very different way, and they need to have things explained to them in a very different way. Just a very brief example would be that, if I'm describing or talking to a client about a will, if I talk about a life interest over the property, then that's a trust. And sometimes people glaze over when you talk about trusts because they're complicated. And sometimes if I feel that my clients aren't fully understanding, then I will draw pictures. I know that sounds very basic, but it really does help because I draw a picture of the house, I divide it up, I sort of move one section across, and it really does help them understand. And by the time I finish with the pictures, they have a much better understanding of how the whole thing works. So you have to find a way to discuss the business transaction with them that they will then understand. If obviously it's very clear that they don't understand, but there is an attorney in place, then do speak to the attorney.
I think the lesson for us all from this as business people is to think about the customer. I mean, I guess it's not something that we perhaps come across a lot at the moment, but clearly the amount of dementia and other situations are increasing. So I guess it's just something that we need to be aware of. If we are talking to people, we are asking them to sign documents, contracts, whatever that may be, we do need to make sure that we're happy that they understand what we're asking them to sign. Otherwise, it's just going to cause us problems further down the road if there are issues. The other thing, I think we won't talk about it today, but I think it'd be useful to have another session on. I think you've got some stats there in terms of mental incapacity and things like powers of attorney, and I know there's business powers of attorney, which I think is something that's again another interesting topic, which perhaps we'll loop back onto in another session. But thanks for joining me this morning, Janine. Something interesting and useful for us all to think about when we're dealing with customers and asking them to sign paperwork. Thank you.
Pleasure.